Welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode of Uncovering Your Inner Power. I'm your host, Jill Ripley, and today I would like to talk about the law of attraction. Now, before you go all glassy-eyed, and I've heard all about that before, I promise I will be giving you a different take on it today. As I was sitting this morning in contemplation, a thought occurred to me when it comes to the law of attraction. There are some schools of thought that suggest you should envision your life as if what you want is already happened. Another school of thought suggests that if you envision your life as if it is already the way you want it, then you will stop striving to get there. It suggests that you should envision what you want, consider the obstacles, and how you can overcome them to ultimately get to where you want to arrive. I think both schools of thought are pointing at something real, but they're talking about different psychological mechanisms. The idea of living as if your desired future has already arrived has roots in many traditions, from visualization in sports psychology to some spiritual teachings and even aspects of cognitive behavioral therapy. The goal isn't to trick the universe. It's to change your own nervous system and behavior. On the other hand, there's also good research suggesting that fantasizing about a perfect future without engaging with the obstacles can actually reduce motivation. Psychologist Gabrielle Oettingen found that people who only indulge in positive fantasies often exerted less effort because, in a sense, their brain had already enjoyed the emotional reward. She developed a technique called WOOP, Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan, to balance the inspiration with realistic action. So I don't think the question is whether visualization works. I think the question is how it's being used and how it will best work for you personally. Here's how I see it. If visualization leaves you feeling peaceful, confident, and then energized to take the next step, it's serving you well. If visualization becomes a substitute for action, where you spend more time imagining than doing, it can become a form of avoidance. In my podcast, I often talk about how the path unfolds moment by moment. I'm not someone who believes you can sit on the couch and think your way into a new life. I try to consistently emphasize taking the next courageous step even when you can't see the whole path in front of you. This philosophy, as I see it, actually blends these two ideas beautifully. Instead of imagining the finish line, imagine becoming the person who naturally navigates towards it. What if instead of trying to convince ourselves we've already arrived, we simply asked a different question? If I were becoming the person I hope to be, how would I meet this moment? Maybe I would have that conversation that I've been avoiding. Maybe I would take the first small step towards something that's been on my heart. Maybe I would care for my body because I recognize that it's carrying me through this life. Maybe I would respond to disappointment with curiosity instead of immediately assuming I've failed. That isn't pretending to be someone I'm not. It's practicing becoming someone new. And as I was reflecting on this, another distinction came to mind. So often we focus on the things we want to happen outside of us. We want the successful career, the loving relationship, the financial security, the recognition, the dream home. None of these desires are wrong, but they all depend, at least in some part, on circumstances we can't completely control. Then there are the qualities we can choose to embody, regardless of what's happening around us. I can choose to be more patient. I can choose to be more compassionate. I can choose gratitude. I can choose courage. I can choose to trust life a little more than I did yesterday. Those things don't have to wait until I've achieved a particular goal. They're available to me right now. And perhaps that's where the deepest transformation begins. Not by trying to act as though we've already reached the destination, but by gently practicing the qualities we hope will be waiting for us when we get there. Ironically, when you cultivate the internal qualities now, you often make better decisions that improve the external outcomes. You're calmer, more resilient, and more consistent. From a spiritual perspective, which I personally feel is of utmost importance, I tend to think of it this way. The invitation isn't to pretend your prayers have already been answered. It's to cultivate the qualities that would naturally arise from trusting that life is unfolding intelligently. Gratitude, openness, courage, generosity, and patience don't require the outcome to have arrived. They arise from faith rather than certainty. That perspective also avoids the trap of believing every setback means you've failed to manifest correctly. Life still contains uncertainty, loss, detours. Visualizing your future can be a powerful compass, but it's your daily choices that move you towards it. One thought comes to mind that I hope you can embrace. Don't live as though you've already arrived. Live as though you're already becoming. That the trajectory has already been put into motion. That subtle shift keeps your heart open to possibility while your feet remain firmly planted on the path in front of you. Another thing I found myself wondering is whether we're all simply wired a little differently. Maybe the practices that inspire one person don't have the same effect on someone else. Our personalities, life experiences, and even the way our minds process the world shape what motivates us. So perhaps there isn't one perfect approach. Perhaps the invitation is to discover what genuinely helps each of us move forward. For example, some people are inspired by possibility. When they vividly imagine the future they want, it creates excitement and increases their willingness to work for it. Visualization acts like a compass. Others are driven by challenge. If they imagine they've already achieved their goal, motivation fades because they thrive on pursuing something that's just out of reach. They need a mountain to climb. Some people need emotional safety first. Visualization helps calm anxiety and build confidence. Once their nervous systems settle, they're able to take action. Others need realism. They become skeptical of affirmations or visualization if it feels disconnected from their current reality. They do better with practical planning and small wins that gradually build confidence. This points to something I've noticed over the years. Self-help often searches for the methods as though there's one universal law that works for everyone. But biology and psychology rarely work that way. Think about exercise. Some people love running. Others hate it, but thrive lifting weights. Others enjoy yoga. They're all moving their bodies, just in different ways. I think the same is true of personal growth. I personally enjoy looking at things through both a psychological and spiritual lens. And here's another thought that occurred to me. Perhaps the real question isn't which technique is universally true. Perhaps it's which technique helps me become more loving, courageous, peaceful, and effective. If a practice consistently leaves you more present, more hopeful, and more willing to take meaningful action, then it's probably serving you well. If it leaves you discouraged, passive, or feeling like you're pretending, then it's probably not the right fit, even if it transforms someone else's life. I would like to implore you to be wary of the extremes. In this podcast, I encourage people to listen to their inner wisdom rather than blindly follow someone else's formula. Maybe inner wisdom isn't just about making life decisions, but it also helps us discern which practices actually help us grow. In other words, perhaps the method isn't the magic. Self-awareness is. When you know yourself well enough to recognize what genuinely moves you towards your values and your goals, you can choose the practices that fit you rather than trying to force yourself into someone else's system. So this week, I invite you to simply become curious. Notice what inspires you. Notice what drains you. Notice what helps you become a little more peaceful, a little more courageous, and a little more aligned with the person you're growing into. Your path doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It only has to be authentically yours. So thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I would be so grateful if you would take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need this message. Every share helps this community to grow and reach more people who are seeking hope, healing, and deeper connection with themselves. And if you'd like more encouragement, reflections, and updates on new episodes and upcoming offerings, I'd love to have you join my newsletter. You'll find the links in the show notes along with ways to connect with me on social media. Until next time, remember, your greatest guide has always been within you. Trust it, honor it, and allow your path to unfold one step at a time.